So Speedvision didn't die for this. There was a fantastic NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series race today at Martinsville. I was thoroughly entertained. It was really fun racing. It was quintessential NASCAR. There wasn't a truck out there that didn't have a significant amount of fenders beaten and banging. Sheet metal was torn up to bits, and it didn't really affect the cars too much aerodynamically. They just hammered on each other, ran into each other. Ross Chastain is one of the best things in NASCAR right now. He's worth absolutely every penny of the price of admission. And you have this fantastic race that, quite frankly, probably will be considered one of the classic races. And Fox Sports 1 completely screws the pooch. You missed the last two laps of the race, and I have to say, I feel bad that I ever talked badly about or was as harsh on NBC as I had been for some of their technical snafus, because this one takes the cake by a long, long way. And it's not just because they missed the finish, but it's because of how everything was handled after the mistake was made. Obviously, mistakes are bad, but generally the way you handle the mistake and the fallout is kind of indicative of how, I guess, your character, though I'm kind of talking about a multinational corporation here. So let's take a look at the clip. This was captured by Nick Bromberg, a great NASCAR journalist over on Twitter. I'm not going to play the entire clip because it's like 2 minutes of dead air, and unlike Fox Sports, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to show you the beginning of this clip and the end of this clip. And the context of this, and probably one of the reasons that this happened, was that the NASCAR race ran long, the NASCAR Truck Series race ran long, and it ran into college football time. So as the Truck Series was about to go back to green in overtime, the final two laps of the race, this is how it played out.
Behind his teammate Todd Gilliland.
No driver has started more for Kyle Busch Motorsports without a win. So Gilliland would like to change that today. The restart, overtime at Martinsville. Getting into victory lane. Two different things here at Martinsville. Todd Gilliland
Celebrates. And we got to go to college football. Congratulations to Gilliland and KBM, winners at Martinsville.
No score, 8:55 to go.
Okay, let's break that down. So, like I said, we're coming to overtime. There's 2 laps to go in the race, and this has been a race where the restarts have been absolutely wild. Trucks getting 3 wide, running into each other, guys giving the bump and run. Again, kind of classic NASCAR. I mean, this is anticipation beyond belief if you've been watching this race for any period of time. And it just cuts out at the exact right moment where you get the thing that happened to NBC, ironically enough, earlier this year for IndyCar, where the broadcast cuts out and you get kind of the 1940s radio. Okay. And then when they finally get the picture back, you get the burnout of the winner. And then it's honestly, I'd be surprised if it was even 10 seconds of pictures. And then Vince Welch has to throw it to college football. So earlier in the day, they were mentioning that the race was running long and they were running into a college football game. And I kind of laughed at that and thought it was funny because it always seems like motorsports is getting bumped to another network because of the fact that some other sport needs to take that space. And I thought that was kind of funny at the time because it was like, college football, now you got to go to FS2. That's where the racing usually gets pushed. Oh, little did I know. It definitely seems like Fox Sports priorities have been made abundantly clear now. And what's interesting about this is if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, I actually talked about this probably about a year ago. It may have been right after the NASCAR season. Fox announced kind of in a PR sense that they were making a lot of cuts to their network, especially pertaining to their NASCAR coverage. And I said at the time, this certainly seems like they're starting to completely lose interest in NASCAR, because it just seemed like they were, making it so that everybody stays close to the Fox Sports base. Only the absolutely necessary people go on site to report on the races, and we don't send anybody else. We're not hiring Chris Myers to do the pre-race show anymore. We're going to do that in-house with a digital set rather than building one. All this stuff to cut costs that seemed to indicate to me that they weren't particularly interested in investing in this property anymore. And if it's not clear anymore that Fox Sports does not care about, in my opinion, does not care about NASCAR anymore, it's this. Because here's where they really made the mistake. And, I want to be proven wrong. I hope you guys prove me wrong. I want you guys, honestly, if I'm talking to Fox Sports right now, I'd say, I want you guys to improve, learn from this. But somehow I suspect they don't really care, especially considering that when they went to college football, the announcer on the college football game gave a pretty half-assed apology each time that he talked, or he as soon as they came back to NASCAR, he apologized, and then he apologized a little bit more the next time. Let me tell you what the real apology should have been. It should have been, "Oh, we're so sorry that you missed the last 2 laps of the race. Here, we're going to circumvent a couple of commercials, because 2 laps at Martinsville is not a very long time. We're going to, maybe even it's like 2 commercials, like a minute of television. We're going to show the final 2 laps of the race because we need to make up for our mistake." They didn't do that. And this is where my point of contention is with them. Because, accidents happen, mistakes happen, or just acts of God happen, where things just are completely out of your control, or, it's just a mistake. They didn't rectify the mistake, and they left it up to NASCAR to put it out on Twitter or whatever and rectify their mistake. If you're being paid to broadcast or paying to broadcast the race, and you're the only one that broadcasts the race, if you screw that up, even if it's not, if it's out of your control, but it's on your end, you should really rectify that issue. And they didn't. And what's really a shame too is, I think a lot of the people who work on the Fox Sports broadcast, I don't think that people like Vince Welch or Michael Waltrip or any of those guys go in on their workday and say, "You know what, I'm going to present really bad NASCAR coverage." I don't think that's their issue. I don't think that's them, and I think they're probably going to get a lot of undue hate because of this. And I would encourage you to not send your hate towards people who are actually working on the team, because they don't control that stuff, whether or not they stay on the air. I would say, if you're upset about it, tweet towards the entity itself rather than, and I know I'm sorry to whoever runs the social media account, but if they see the backlash, which looks like it's as big as it appears to be, hopefully they'll change. But then again, I start to think back to Speedvision, and I'm going to get on my boomer box here. I apologize, but Speedvision was this all-racing channel in the United States. It was bought by Fox Sports around 2000, 2001, and Fox immediately started pivoting it to be a much more NASCAR-centric network. In my opinion, Fox, the company, has never cared a lick about auto racing. The only thing they really cared about was the fact that NASCAR was fast growing and quickly becoming the second most popular sport in the United States. They saw this as an avenue to capitalize. So what do? They buy the one racing network that there is. They make it all NASCAR coverage, and now, as NASCAR is no longer becoming as popular as it used to be, NASCAR fans are now experiencing what pretty much anybody else who wanted to watch any other series other than NASCAR on Speed Channel experienced in that time, where the bare minimum effort was put in, not by the people working on the broadcast. I want to make that very clear. But the network executives who dictated, you've got to be at NASCAR Truck Series practice, you've got to cut away from Le Mans, blah, 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 stuff like that. Now, the money that Fox is seeing is coming from stuff like college football. So, even though I'm sure they have some sort of contractual obligation with NASCAR to show every lap of a race, once the race ends, which it did here, regardless of whether or not the viewers actually got to see those 2 laps, they're off the air and they're to college football. And I guarantee you, had that college football game been an Alabama game or something like that, you would not have even seen the last 2 laps. They would have kicked it straight to FS2. And it's just very disappointing, again, considering that just a couple of years ago, at least for NASCAR fans, this network was the go-to. It was where you got reliable, solid, good coverage by knowledgeable reporters, driver analysts, and it's been reduced to the point where, they're not even sending the broadcasters to most of the races anymore. They did apparently send all their broadcasters to Martinsville, which I guess I'll give a thumbs up there. But they don't do it for every race. And the lack of effort and the clear lack, this like I said, I'm sorry I ever crapped on NBC, because this is the worst one I've seen in a long time. I don't want to necessarily say ever, but it's the worst treatment of motorsports on television that I have seen in a long, long time. It's close to that F1 broadcast, the first ESPN one a couple of years ago. It's close to that. I don't know if it's quite eclipsed that level, but it's close. So this race did have a winner, Todd Gilliland, and I do want to talk about him a little bit, because there was some audio that was very fascinating that came out after this race. And it comes from Luis Torres, someone who follows and I'm assuming watches the channel. Great reporting work, man, because you just got to hear this audio to believe it.
Come get you a clock, buddy. Nice work. Wow! Oh, yeah, good! Watch him. I never thought we were going to win. You guys are the best! Kyle Busch, you can stay in your fucking motorhome!
So yes, this is Kyle Busch's driver talking about Kyle Busch after a win for Kyle. Now it's been no secret that Todd Gilliland and Kyle Busch, and really Harrison Burton as well, and all of Kyle Busch's drivers, have kind of had a bit of a war of the words in the media. Kyle's not particularly happy with the performance of his drivers this year, not getting wins, not getting into the playoffs, etc., etc. And then Gilliland gets the win and tells Kyle Busch to stay in the motorhome. That's fascinating to me, because I can't remember the last time a driver was this miffed, this unhappy with a team owner, particularly a team owner that they may end up crossing paths in the Cup Series at some point, or certainly Xfinity Series, I would imagine. I'm guessing Gilliland's going to move up the ladder. That this rivalry, and I'm going to call it a rivalry, seems to be forming right here, and it's done so publicly too. It's very weird. It's weird to see this war go on between these two drivers. And here's the thing: I haven't met Kyle Busch personally. I have met Todd Gilliland. I met him at a K&N race a couple of years ago. The guy's a good kid. I was impressed by him when I've seen him drive, and when I got to speak with him briefly. And I think it's weird because I really do like Kyle Busch too. But I almost feel like I want to side with Gilliland on this one, that, sometimes things just don't go your way in motorsports, and it's not necessarily indicative of talent level. And this guy raced Ross Chastain. He raced him hard, but Ross Chastain raced hard this entire race. Just look at the front of his truck at the end of the deal. So I think he won the race fair and square. He won it at Martinsville, and he won it in one of the toughest fought NASCAR races that I've seen in a very long time. So I'm going to be, and it's so weird that out of a controversy like this was Fox Sports 1. Despite that, this race was so interesting that I am kind of interested in continuing to follow what's going to happen with Todd Gilliland going forward. So, let me know down in the comment section below what you thought of this Truck Series event, which I have to give full credit to NASCAR and the Truck Series. They did everything they should have done. It was a great race, and I have to tell whichever executive or whoever's making the calls in the truck to cut away to college football and not even show a replay of the finish when there's a technical issue. It's pretty much an F- on their part. One of the worst snafus I've ever seen, and not a lot of remorse either. Because I will say that with that F1 thing, they had so much remorse that now the races are presented commercial free. And that's ESPN. You know what my feelings on ESPN and motorsport have been. So ESPN was willing to rectify their mistake and make things better. Will Fox do it? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Dave Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more motorsports content, including trucks. And I will see you in the next video.